What is up, ladies and gents? You know what time of day it is. It's XCN time, and in today's video we're going to be discussing what we're seeing here on the charts. Of course, as discussed from my previous video, we are in a very important area here on the charts right now, so we're going to dive into why it is quite important. I'll also be giving you my price prediction for the coming days and weeks here for XCN, so be sure to stay tuned for all of that. Of course, if you are a new viewer, then welcome to this channel. If you do like this sort of content, hit the like button and subscribe for more. If you are a returning viewer, as always, welcome back to the channel. It's great to see you all here. So we're just going to dive straight into this video because, of course, everyone right now is on the edge of their seats because, as you can see, we've been watching this resistance here on Onyxcoin for the longest time ever. Of course, it's facing downwards, meaning that it's been keeping us in this downtrend now for nearly 2 months here on Onyxcoin. Of course, just the other day, we saw a breakout to the upside. You can see the prices on the 11th of March here did this beautiful pump that took Onyxcoin right above this resistance line, and we've actually come down to retest it on several occasions, and we are consolidating at the moment. We've also seen a support that looks a little bit like this. Of course, if we connect the lows here of the price in this downtrend, you can kind of see that it starts to form something like this. And of course, this support has been tested on multiple different occasions, and if you connect these two lines together, this creates a falling wedge pattern. Now, when we see a breakout from a falling wedge, we would expect the price target from this to be the first test of support and the first test of resistance. The distance between them, we drag the measuring tool to where you see the breakout, and that, guys, forms our price target if this falling wedge is to be respected. Now, I say that we are in quite an important area because if I just take that away and you look at what's happening right now, of course, this gets invalidated if the prices continue to fall here. So what we see, if the prices do something like this, that would invalidate the falling wedge price target. And although we could still go up here on Onyxcoin, we don't have a set target in mind. So what I am seeing on the very short term here is this little consolidation pattern, and this is quite nice because this is a small triangle within the 1 hour time frame here. This has happened over the past few hours, and if we see a breakout from this triangle, this could definitively tell us whether we're going to break down to the downside and kind of just invalidate this whole breakout that we've seen once again. Of course, the last time we saw a breakout from this downtrend here on Onyxcoin, we did unfortunately see a fake out where the prices dipped back down below the resistance. So if we see a breakdown below the support line here on this little triangle that's sitting at 13.1 cents, we could see a scenario back over here, and it's a bit more back to the drawing board before we see another breakout on Onyxcoin. Of course, it's still possible, but we're just going to have to wait a little bit longer. However, if we do see a breakout to the upside from this triangle, not only does it give us an immediate price target in mind, this distance here that would take us to the upside, of course, only a little mini triangle, so it's a 15% trade. Not only will we see that, we would also much more likely see the price target from this falling wedge hit. And just remember, guys, that is the big price here on Onyxcoin. That is a 170% trade if we see that breakout from this little triangle here. Of course, if you are looking for a good place to trade Onyxcoin, then look no further than the MEX exchange. This is the exchange that I use for all my trading because they have some of the lowest trading fees. They don't require KYC to get started, and for a limited time, they're giving every new user who signs up using the link down below a free $20. So if you want to make use of that offer, click in that link down below, fill out your details. It takes less than a minute to do so. Deposit some fiat or crypto into your account, and then you can get started trading with that $20 straight away. So of course, guys, thank you for your support. We'll get back into this video. So of course, this is the setup that I'm really looking forward to seeing. Of course, what also gives me conviction to the fact that we should be seeing this upside is the MACD. The MACD has been so close to a breakout on the 1-day chart. Of course, I say a breakout because the two lines, the orange line that you see here and the blue line, are literally just about to cross over. Now, when we see a crossover on the MACD on the 1-day chart, that is quite a convincing buy and sell signal. For example, last time we saw a clear crossover on the MACD here was back when the Onyxcoin price was near the top over there. So if you sold when the crossover occurred last time, you would have sold near the top here on Onyx. And now Onyxcoin is about to give us a buy signal on the MACD. Of course, we are so close to a crossover, and what we really need to see for that crossover to be locked in is the next few days And now we are so close to having another crossover here on the MACD. Again, this time going from bearish to bullish. And of course, that would give us a lovely buy signal. The thing that we really need to see in order to lock in that crossover that we're seeing is this candle today be bullish and hopefully tomorrow as well. So what we need really is two green candles here on the chart. If we start to head back downwards, the gap between the two lines will start to increase once again, and it won't be a clear crossover. But if we see the next 2 days here on Onyxcoin bullish, in my opinion, that would lock in this crossover, and we should start to see more bullish momentum enter into Onyxcoin, and that should give us the momentum required to start heading up to these higher levels here. Of course, price target is at 3.6 cents. If we can get above that here on Onyxcoin, which I still truly believe is possible, then we'll be looking at the price targets of these Fibonacci levels. Of course, past 3.6 cents, the immediate next target that we have is the previous high here on Onyxcoin that's sitting just under 5 cents. If we can zoom past that, then these three targets here are the three fibs sitting above the high there. Of course, the first fib is sitting at 11.5 cents. The next fib up is sitting at roughly 17 to 18 cents, which is the previous all-time high here on Onyxcoin. So that is quite a nice price target to have as well. And finally, the golden fib, 1.618 there, is telling us that we should be seeing up to 35 cents here on Onyxcoin. So of course, very bullish targets from the fib level. And with that being said, I do think that if you are a longer term buyer, if you're looking to buy Onyxcoin to hold for at least a few months, even into the next few years, then roundabout now is a great time to be buying. Of course, maybe we haven't nailed the absolute bottom here on Onyxcoin, but I do believe we are much closer to a bottom than we are to the top. Of course, we're seeing a number of sources telling us that we could be seeing a bottom in the markets. The first one, of course, is the Fear and Greed Index. This is one that we always turn to because, it measures the sentiment in the market and is quite a reliable signal. When we see extreme fear in the markets, it's generally a good time to be buying. And when we see extreme greed, it's a good time to be selling. We know that because if you correlate this Fear and Greed Index to the Bitcoin price here, which you can see in gray on the chart, every time we've seen a dip in the sentiment, so take September 2013, for example, we also saw a bottom in the Bitcoin price before things started heading back upwards. Again, in August of 2014 there, we saw a dip down to 26 on the Fear and Greed Index. That's also when we saw Bitcoin dip below 50,000 before it started that rip up to 100,000 over the coming months. Of course, as you can see there, when Bitcoin started making that all-time high, the sentiment here was also at extreme greed. So right now, what we've seen from the Fear and Greed Index is over the past few days, we've seen a record low sentiment. We saw the Fear and Greed Index touch extreme fear for the first time. It went all the way down to 15. And obviously that corresponded to a price of 76,000 on the Bitcoin chart. We've recovered a bit from that right now. But like I said, this could be a generational dip in the Fear and Greed Index. And if you believe that greed and extreme greed are going to return to the markets, then now is an awesome time to be buying, in my opinion. Of course, I personally think it's extremely likely that we see the markets flip back to greed and extreme greed sometime in 2025. And obviously this is going to correspond to crypto prices going a lot higher. And so I really truly believe that now is close to the bottom of crypto prices across the board. Of course, not just for XCN, but for pretty much anything right now. Ethereum, for example, is down below 2,000, which is just bizarre for me considering that I thought Ethereum would be going to at least $7,000 this cycle. Of course, a few other things as well that I want to show you guys. The XCN over XRP chart is one that I've been closely monitoring. I monitored this one because these two cryptos are in the same category. Of course, XRP is a large cap, XCN could be considered a smaller cap. And basically, when this chart is bearish, the large cap XRP is doing better than XCN. So that's kind of more of a risk on, risk off signal. When XRP is doing better than XCN, the markets are less risk taken. If XCN is doing better than XRP, then the markets are more risk on. And at the moment, what we've seen is this structure on this chart. Of course, when XCN did its 20x back in January, we saw a massive pump and it confirmed to me this double bottom pattern. And what we've seen over the past few days on this chart is the prices come back down here on this chart to retest this neckline, as you can see with this gray line here. Of course, this was the resistance for the XCN over XRP chart on multiple different occasions, and now the prices have come above that. It came back down to retest this as a support, and we got a bounce off from this resistance area, meaning that unless we slip underneath, which I think is quite unlikely, then we should be bouncing off from this area and continuing the uptrend that we've seen on this chart. Of course, like I say, when this is bullish, we see XCN outperform XRP. Another strong chart that we have as well is, of course, Bitcoin in itself. Of course, at the end of the day, Bitcoin is very correlated to what the rest of crypto is doing. So when we see Bitcoin making a move in the upwards direction, we would also generally see that in XCN as well. And of course, at the moment, we've got this gray line going up here, the bullish support for Bitcoin. Of course, over the past few days, we've come down to test this support and we've bounced up from this area. So we've seen a convincing bounce from the support. And I think with all this Bitcoin strategic reserve news and nations starting to create their own Bitcoin strategic reserve, I think the logical direction for Bitcoin over the next few months is upwards to new highs. I truly believe this as well. Of course, if Bitcoin's going to be making this move, we should be seeing that in XCN over the coming months as well. And finally, guys, total crypto market cap, very self-explanatory, a cup and handle pattern. We saw the market cap come down to the resistance here over the past week, and we saw a clear bounce from this resistance of the cup, which is now a support. And as long as the market cap of crypto can stay at least above 2.4 trillion, then this cup and handle pattern should still be in play with a target of $10 trillion. So plenty of charts telling us that we are at important support levels. We've seen a bounce over the past few days. Fingers crossed that it stays this way. And so in other news, guys, Binance Futures has opened up spots for new listings for their futures program. Of course, Onyxcoin. If you want to support Onyxcoin, make sure you head onto the Onyxcoin Twitter there at OnyxDAO. There will also be a link for this in the description down below. Go onto the latest tweet here, and to nominate XCN to be listed on Binance Futures, you have to go on the Binance website there. You have to log in or register an account if you haven't got one already. And basically you see there's a bunch of cryptos getting nominated down here. The top one here has 3 million picks. And to basically get to XCN, we have to type it in the search bar here. At the moment, we're rank 52 with 2,300 picks. So of course, if you want to support Onyxcoin, if you want to get it listed on Binance Futures, make sure you go ahead and pick it. This is only going to be bullish for the price action, and it could also potentially open the doors for Binance spot listing for XCN in the future as well. Make sure you go ahead and do that, of course. And of course, very, very finally as well, if you are a longer term holder here on XCN and you're not yet doing this already, make sure you stake your XCN. Of course, at the moment, the staking APR is 32.3%. So if you have $1,000 of XCN, for example, and you decide to stake your XCN, at the end of the year, you'll be given an extra $323 worth of XCN for absolutely free. It's pretty much passive income here. The best thing about this as well is there's no unlock period. So normally when you stake, you'd have to lock up your XCN or any other crypto for a certain amount of months. Here, there is no lockup. You can withdraw at any time, which makes this really attractive in my opinion. Of course, the link for the staking protocol is in the description down below as well. If you need a tutorial on how to stake your XCN, I do have a video here on this channel. It should pop up on the screen right now if you want to go check it out. Otherwise, guys, that's pretty much it from me. Of course, thank you so much for watching this video. Fingers crossed that we get a really good outcome here on the XCN chart. We are at a crossroads at the moment, so all we can do is watch and pray. Otherwise, guys, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in my next video.